Let's go. And welcome to another exciting episode of the Dreaded Archer podcast. Today we have a very special guest, Mr. Ranch Fairy himself.
I don't know if I'm special like that. Okay, wait a second. You got to back up now.
All right.
I got a wacky name. So why in the hell are you the Dreaded Archer? What are we scared of?
I got dreadlocks.
Okay, I'm okay with that. I had to figure that out. Okay.
Oh
You got
yeah.
the dreadlocks. Okay.
Oh yeah. So
Fine.
I got my dad's brother, my uncle Mo. Ever since I was little, he always comes up with these crazy names for me. So like I was Trey Cola for a period of time, and then I was Foots McCoy, and then when I started getting into I don't know. Yeah, Foots
That's
McCoy.
awesome.
And then like when I started I got into archery, and I was down at my dad's house shooting my bow, and he was like, "Oh, the dreadlocked archer," and I was like,
And it's stuck.
"It's stuck." I was like, "Oh, I like that." Not dreadlocked archer, but dreaded archer,
Yeah, right.
and it just kind of stuck.
That's what happened to me. I started calling myself the ranch fairy at the ranch that I run instead of the ranch manager or whatever. Everybody wanted magical things to happen, like have the deer show up on time. Everything works. There's no bees. The fences are fixed. The scooter always runs and all that. And I started calling myself the ranch fairy like 10 years ago. And I said, just call the ranch fairy and he'll fly down there and fix everything for you.
And
And
make it happen.
it was kind of sarcastic. And then when I started the channel, I just went, well, that's pretty unique. So I typed it into Google and zero came up. Right?
Right.
So you're either super unique or super popular. And so I just grabbed it and ran with it. And, of course, in the bow hunting world, the fairy part really got some run in the beginning. I got everything you would expect. And I still get some of that.
Right. I can only imagine because I know how the YouTube comments go.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. You better be ready for that. It doesn't matter who you are.
Oh no, yeah, I get it all the time. I had a guy message me on Instagram, and he was like, "Yo, your name is corny," and like
Yeah, right.
That's all he said. Like, didn't say like, "Hey, what's up?" Nothing. Just like, your name
right.
is corny. And I'm like, I don't even follow you. Like, we don't even know each other.
Yeah, it's just amazing. But it'll be fine. If you're anybody warning, if you decide to do a podcast or start a YouTube channel, you need to get ready for that crap because
Yep.
it's amazing that the loony bin gets opened, and no matter how good you are or whatever you try to do or help people, you're going to get shot at. So if you don't have thick skin, just don't do it. It's easier that way.
Exactly. Well, I spent a little time in the military, so I got a little bit of thick skin.
Oh yeah, you're fine. Thank you for serving our country.
I only went to school. I went to the Naval Academy. I didn't have to serve.
The Naval Academy. So you're not exactly a dumbass.
No, not that much.
Not a lot of people get in the Naval Academy. That's good stuff, man. Congrats. That's fantastic.
Yeah. I loved it. Played football, and it was fun.
Oh God, I can only imagine. What a beautiful place. Isn't that up in New York, right?
No, that's West Point. That's
okay.
That's Army. We are down. Navy's down in Annapolis.
Oh,
Annapolis, Maryland.
That's not bad country there.
No, not at all.
I've heard West Point. That part of the state is beautiful up there.
See, when I got recruited and I went on my visit to West Point, they brought me up there the worst time of the year. It was like late November. Mm-hmm. It was cold. It was really gray, and I was like, "Yeah, I'm not coming here."
not a good job of selling it to you, I guess.
No, not at all. No, like I didn't like West Point, and then when I went to Air Force Academy, it was just like I didn't like the altitude. I'm like, I can't do this.
Yeah, right.
So Navy was the best route for me.
Good, cool. That's great to know. Fantastic. So how'd you get into the whole arrow slinging thing?
So
did you come?
No, I didn't actually. I did not come up hunting at all. Like my dad hunted. Yeah, my dad hunted, but he would never take me at all. Like I don't know why, just never would. So I was like, whatever. I'll play sports like everybody else around here. So play sports, boom, go to college, play football. Football's over, no NFL. So it's like, what do you do? Well, now you gotta get a real job.
Yeah,
So
right. That's boring.
right. So I had this like depression. Like something's missing because usually
Yeah, right.
right around like June you start training and just whatever. Well, I ended up moving to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, and I'm a tobacco salesman, so I'm always up and down the highways. And south of town, north of town, I would always see this big old sign. It just said archery range. That's it, just archery range. I'm like, what's over there? And they got trees, so you can kind of see a little bit of 3D targets and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So one day, just bored, I just, what, got some free time on my hands. I'm just gonna go see what that place is.
Yeah, right.
I pull in, and big sign on the outside of the building says Archery Outfitters. I'm like, oh, okay, it's an archery shop. Walk in, and they're like, hey, how can we help you? I'm like, I don't know. I've driven by this place a couple times. I wanted to see what's in here. So after about 45 minutes of talking to the owner and a couple of the people on staff, I end up buying a bow that never shot one, anything. So we get all set up and started shooting it. And it was like from like maybe the third or fourth shot, that little void that I had, it was like, oh, this is kind of feeling that.
Yeah, you found yourself a rabbit hole and go dig for a shovel.
Yep. And then
That's exactly what happens.
it went from walking into the shop to, well, how do I get good at this? And just going down that YouTube rabbit hole, which is how I found you, and then just going. And
Good.
I got my first kill last year.
Nice.
It was a doe. Got a doe. But
No, the advice to all listeners: if you've never shot anything, shoot the first legal animal that comes out. Get something on the ground. Don't wait for a 10-point deer to come out in front of you, because you will go like that. Shoot a few.
Exactly. Well, my second year, my first year I didn't get anything. Second year, I made the mistake and had mechanical broadhead. Doe comes in broadside at about 15 yards. I thought I put a good shot on her, but it hit just straight shoulder blade. Bled a little, there's a little bit of blood, but nothing really. Arrow found it. It didn't deploy.
Yeah, you sound like me. I did that a bunch.
I'm done. I'm never doing this again. So I got rid of that, started shooting fixed, and then I said last year, got my first doe, and it's been exciting from there.
It's so much fun. It's I spent 20 years not tuning arrows, shooting whatever the shop said, shooting mechanicals, shooting everything. And I killed a black wildebeest in Africa with a Rage, the original Rage, and just hit it right over right in the V, cut the heart in half, blood shot 4 feet out. And I said, oh my God, these things are a miracle. And my experience, I mean, the thing went 40 yards. My experience with them was they were hero or zero. I didn't have, there wasn't ever like 100-yard blood trail. It was either like devastating and blood amazing, or the other opposite is nothing.
Nothing. Yep.
It's really a weird experience, and I had to go full circle. And until I started deciding to test things, because I'm not a hunting channel, I'm a study channel, and pigs have no laws. You can kill them with whatever, fire, RPG, tanks, whatever. Nobody cares. The state does not classify them as any kind of game animal whatsoever. They're considered, vermin. And I said, wow, I could leverage that for shooting a lot of different arrow systems at deer range. So I get a lot of blowback from some clowns out there saying, anybody can hit them at 20 yards with a bow and arrow. And I'm like, I'm testing things.
Right.
Who missed that? And then once I started learning, because of Big Mike, who's one of my friends, and taught me how to get arrows flying right and all that stuff. And then he really was the beginning of me learning to sharpen as well. It's really amazing how lethal arrows are when they're right. And when they're kind of okay. When I was on podcast with Aaron Snyder, this is the best thing I've heard. He did like grading system. He said if you start with a plan B minus arrow, it's either going to stay the same or erode. So if you start with B minus, it's going to go to C somewhere. If you start
Okay.
with an A plus arrow, it could go down to a B. And I went, that's totally logical. I didn't think of it that way. It's totally on him for saying it, but it's a beautiful way to put it. That the arrow system, wherever it starts, it's either going to stay there when it goes through or erode.
See, I had no clue because I've always like my first year, like I said, when I shot my doe, it didn't get anything. I literally just that I didn't. That was trash example because that was a fixed broadhead. I mean, that was a mechanical broadhead. But when I switched over to fixed and I shot my first doe last year,
Mm-hmm.
all I did was wash that arrow off and was like, all right, I can go again. I didn't even think that it would not be as sharp anymore.
Oh yeah, no, they're dull as a hammer, generally speaking, and you got to touch them up. It's one of the most overlooked things for lethality in the archery business is sharp. Everybody just, and it's okay. We're all learning here, right?
Right.
I didn't sharpen broadheads for 25 years. Not really. I sharpened some hand sharpenable broadheads, but they weren't sharp like they are now. And it's an art, but it's an art that you should learn. I feel like it's the most responsible thing you could possibly do. I just had a guy, he works at a cattle processing factory of all places. So there's hides everywhere.
Mm.
So they got a push-pull scale, and he took a Magnus Black Hornet and pushed it through the skin. And it was something like, and I don't know how the test was done, but it was something, say it was 20 pounds of pressure it took to go through this hide. I don't know how he did it. So let's just throw that number up there. Okay.
Gotcha.
By the way, the ridge was 100, but just for comparative analysis, he sharpened the head and it went from 20 to 13.
Oh, wow.
By just sharpening it. And I was like, absolutely. Right. So then you get all he's really showing is an improvement in penetration. But what that means in my head is, should that blade erode on impact, say it hits dead center in a rib and gets some bone on it and grinds it a little bit, if it starts at 20, it's going up, right?
Right.
Well, if it starts at 13, it's going up. But let me get my hands. They're going like this, right? There's two different starting points, and then they're going to go up. We don't know how much. You can't calculate that.
Right.
But you're better off, once again, to use Aaron Snyder's example. This is a C arrow and this is an A arrow, but they're always going to deteriorate, right?
Right.
And I thought that was interesting. I'm going to do some more of that. That was a great idea. Steal it from him.
Right.
I told him that. He's like, yeah, steal it.
So, I mean, you got all those pigs out there. Do you ever take the pig? You plan on taking like the pig hide or just getting cattle hide?
Yeah, we're going to get there. I'm probably going to start shooting them with a rifle. I'm getting to the point now that I'm going to start doing tests.
Right.
And I'm probably just going to start shooting them in the head so I can get a thorax that doesn't have a penetration mark in it. And this is one of the reasons why there's not a lot of this kind of testing. It's illegal to shoot a game animal multiple times under wanton waste laws.
Okay.
So you're not supposed to waste anything on a game animal. So you have to have the right critters. Like Ed Ashby studied those gigantic buffaloes over in Australia and Cape Buffalo and stuff. There's no laws on that for wanton waste. But whitetail, all the game animals in this country, you're not supposed to waste them, right? So shooting them again and again and again,
It's considered waste.
Speaking, is considered wanton waste. So most people don't want to put the time in to do it. You got your deer, you got a lot to do. You're going to clean the deer. You're not going to set it up and shoot it. So that aside, it's illegal. But on pigs, it's not. So I'm getting ready to either start snaring. I got a place 15 minutes from my house, and I got snares. And snare them and shoot them with a pistol. And that way you shoot them in the head, and you got a completely intact thorax with no damage, and start testing that way more with the Rocket Man and stuff. So
yeah.
It'd be more efficient for the testing piece. Shooting them's fun as hell with a bow and arrow, but
it'd be more efficient for testing.
Absolutely, and then you could probably get a big pig's chest thorax is probably a foot by a foot, and you could probably get 4 or 5 shots out of it, and then just do stuff. So, and then skinning them's easy. I mean, you could just skin off the hide and get a piece. Double the size of a football. That's all you really need, right?
Yeah, like growing up, my dad, I mean, on his land down in Texas, he had so many pigs. Like we would, I mean, I'd watch him just go out and just massacre them.
Oh yeah. No, they're
And
great. They're great test material, man. They're a
oh
lot
yeah.
of fun.
Hey, by the way, Rocket Man,
Mm-hmm.
is it Daryl Bennett?
Daryl Barnett. Yep.
Barnett, my bad, Barnett.
No,
So I
you're
was
fine.
watching you guys on the Hunter podcast when you guys were at the ATAs,
Mm-hmm.
and this is actually what made me contact you.
Mm-hmm.
He's from Texarkana.
He is from Texarkana. They have land up there.
I'm from Texarkana.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'm driving, listening, and they asked him where he was from. He goes, from East Texas, town called Texarkana, and my ears just perk up because I don't
Right.
know a lot of people, other than people that I know from Texarkana. But whenever I hear someone say Texarkana, I'm like, ooh. So I thought
He
that
met
was
a
like
guy with the Ashby Foundation. We were standing around giving an Ashby presentation. He starts BSing with one of these guys. And this guy hunts all over the world. He's pretty well, inside the Africa world with a bow and arrow. He's one of the dudes, but he doesn't publish and stuff. And super nice guy. And they start talking. And the guy who leases cows on Barnett's property is best friends with this guy we met.
small world.
Right. They're like, so and so? Yeah. Oh, well, he leases our land for cows. Oh, I've known that guy since high school. He's crazy, blah, 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 blah. And he called him. And he said, hey, man, I got Barnett on the standing in front of me. It was so much fun. You just never know, right? You just never know.
No, you never know. It's a big world, but it's really a small world.
It's a really small one. Then you get in this, bow and arrow business, it gets real small. So,
Oh, gets real small.
what do you have planned this fall?
So this fall, just whitetail hunting. Like my
Mm-hmm.
dad and brother, they're gonna come up South Dakota in November, whitetail hunt, and that's about it. I was gonna go out to Colorado, but me and my buddy we decided like let's put in for a unit and get preference points and try to get a
Mm-hmm.
a draw unit because last year we did over the counter, and you pull up to a trailhead and there's 20 trucks. It's like
Yeah, it's tough.
it's
I
rough.
find it tough. I've got nine points in Colorado right now, and I've got a friend who's a madman Western guy. He drew Arizona Unit 10 with no points. There's 20 tags. I think it's 10. One of the premium big bull units for archery. He puts in every year. He just says, "What if?" There's 20 tags, and he got one with no points.
Hey,
And the outfitter he's going with says, "We're going 350 or bigger." Like
that's
there's
it.
no, yeah, we're no problem. Like we're going to hunt for big elk. And he called me. He was like, he could hardly speak when he got the notification because his odds were like 0.03%.
Oh,
But
that sounds
I'm
like
gonna
trying to get draw tag over in Custer State Park here in South Dakota.
correct. And ironically, for being an archery guy, I'm probably going to cash my points in on a third season rifle mule deer tag because he's done that a lot in Colorado.
Mhm.
And he's got a couple of units that he knows. And that's one of the things. If you go to a unit, go back. I've skipped all over around. I've been 5 times and I've never been to the same unit twice. So the first couple of days, you're lost. So if
Right,
you
trying to
would
get
go
your bearings.
back, right, if you go back, you can start somewhere where you saw a stupid elk and say, okay, I know I saw an elk here last year. Not me. I just go to a new one and wander around for a couple of days like an idiot.
Yeah, we
And
we had talked about going back to the unit that we went to last year, and because like as soon as we pull up to a spot and we're getting out and kind of getting our stuff ready, and Troy, I kid you not, I heard a limb break to the left of me, and I look over, and this fox comes running out. So I'm like, that couldn't have been the fox that broke that limb like that.
mm-hmm.
So I'm looking, and probably about a couple seconds later, here comes this cow. I was walking out about 45 yards, and right behind her, big 6x6. I'm like, oh,
Oh my
it's
God,
gonna
you're
be
kidding.
like this. Like, are we? This is how we
Yeah,
really
right.
doing it. Like, thank you, Colorado. So I
Yeah,
go to
right.
knock an arrow, and as I go to full draw, a guy's coming down the road on the trail on a four
On a
wheeler.
scooter. Yeah.
Yep, and boop, he runs back over into the tree line. And I'm like, goodness gracious, and like we saw that one, and then that same day around 4 o'clock, as we are hiking hiking back to the truck, a 6x6 comes. I mean, we weren't even like calling or anything.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'll take that back. Rex did a cow call, but we didn't hear nothing bugle back.
Mm-hmm.
So as they're walking, he looks to his left, and here comes this. I mean, he probably a younger 6x6. He
Mm-hmm.
comes smoking in at from 80 yards. So we try to get set up, but by the time we could really get to where we can get it like get set up, he had closed that gap, and he was like right on top of us at 40 yards. So he starts walking behind the tree. There's like three trees lined up. He walks behind them, gets to the last one. I'm at full draw, and he just stops.
Yeah, of
Like,
course. They know. They know.
yep. And I was like, I could probably shoot through this tree, but I'm
Mm-hmm.
not. I'm too
Yeah,
new.
right.
I'm not confident. I'm not doing it.
I wouldn't do it. Yeah.
And the wind changed. He got my scent. And I mean, he hightailed it out, and we didn't see another elk the rest of the week.
It's a tough sport, and I've the few times we've called and had bulls come, we've never had them bugle. They come
Yep.
quiet.
Yeah, we
I
went
think that
actually
just
ran into a guy, and he said like the unit we were in. He goes, they get called to so much, they just
right.
it's too much pressure.
They'll come check it out, but they ain't gonna blow at you because every
Mm-mm.
swinging weenie on the damn. All of a sudden, everybody's running over the mountain.
Yep.
Looks like a bunch of zombies coming after it. So
Oh yeah.
I've talked to a lot of people who've had the quiet elk thing, happen, especially in Colorado, and that's pretty amazing. I need to kill an elk. I'm not mad at them anymore. I'm getting ready to go on a fishing tear that's going to be impressive. So we had our first norther come through down here, and then the next one, I'm gone. I mean, everybody's thinking about deer hunting and stuff, and I'm just like, the best fishing of the year in saltwater in Texas is in the fall, in the September through about to Thanksgiving. Oh, it gets so good. I got a bad fishing problem, man. I mean, like it's bad,
Well, I
terrible.
mean, so you're more of a fisherman than you are a hunter, right?
I am because it got old. That's all. I hunted like crazy when I was younger, and then when I had kids, I raised them hunting, and I killed a 155-inch deer in 2008 with a bow on low fence and legit and all that stuff. Nothing, or doctored up genetics and all that high fence stuff. And I kind of lost about that time. I had children, and I kind of lost the madness at them. I still love shooting pigs, but I'm not pissed at the deer. But I had two boys and a girl, and they all hunted, and so I just took them. And I've got a bunch of nieces and nephews. My wife has 9 siblings.
Ooh-wee.
And so I'll take some 7-year-old, and we've got a couple of cull bucks that are on camera. We'll go put them in the blind, and they don't care if it's a 7-pointer with a rack like that I want taken out of the herd because he's just kind of got crappy genetics. They're 7 years old. Like they get to shoot, right?
Right.
Deer walks out, blow him down, man. Kaboom! And I get so much of a kick out of doing that. I'd rather do that. I'd rather take you hunting. My boys are getting the same. They're 20 and 25, and my son Thomas, he's here today, he'd rather take people. He shot a few deer, shot a bunch of pigs, shot a lot of guns, and now he's just like, who wants to go? I mean, I'll take them. I'll take them and help them pick out the right deer or whatever. He loves doing that. I mean, he loves taking people. So it's beautiful to see your kids evolve like that. They're just
Oh,
not pissed at
definitely.
them anymore. They'd rather take you and sit there grip and grin with their arm around you saying, wahoo, and
Right.
you got them because they're in on it. We're all in on it,
Oh,
right?
definitely.
That's the fun part about deer camp. You're all in on it.
Yeah, like when my dad and brother came up. So my dad, he's like I said, he hunted, his whole life, but me and my brother never did. So I actually talked them up. I talked them to come up and to hunt. And my dad and brother
Uh-huh.
got kind of a weird relationship. So I was like, I don't
Mm-hmm.
this would be a good time for us to like bond or whatever. And
Yeah,
my
right.
brother never shot a rifle, never been out in the deer woods, nothing. And I I didn't even shoot that week. I didn't shoot a deer at all. I mean, my dad
Mm-hmm.
shot a really nice buck, and then my brother, the last day, right at last light, he ended up knocking down a really old 8 point. I mean, the deer is gnarly looking,
Yeah, right.
and he just got the bug. And I found myself getting more excited. Yeah,
It's
he got the
beautiful.
bug. Like
Yeah,
as,
right.
as soon as he pulled the trigger, when you rub a dog's little spot, his leg get the
Mm-hmm.
kicking. My
Legs start
brother's leaned him.
shaking.
My brother leaned up against the tree. He's already fired the shot. I see the deer go down, and he's over there against the tree,
Yeah,
just
he's got the buck fever going.
he got the bug. And I found
Yeah.
myself getting more excited on taking those guys hunting than I did when I shot my first doe. It was just like
Yeah, right.
I just loved it. And eventually one day, that's my goal, is to have, a lot of land and just take people who've never been hunting and have it be their first experience.
Yeah, it's super fun. I've done that a lot. I've been fortunate. There's always some randos that come with family members and stuff, and people that have never shot a gun. I can't tell you how many people I've taken from zero gun experience to running an AR off the porch, and that's rewarding. And people who, quite frankly, there's people who've come who don't. They kind of swallow the medicine on media and how terrifying guns are and all this stuff. And I'm just like, okay, well, I'll just ease you into this. You don't have to do it. I mean, we're going to shoot. If you don't want to shoot, fine. But I can ease you into this. We're not a bunch of maniacs.
Right.
And you got to be safe. You can't do stupid crap with them to kill people. And you ease them into it. And on that front, the biggest thing I've noticed is people tend to give people too big a rifle like they'll hand them a 30-06 and that's their first experience. It's really a bad move. Yeah, right. I was given a 30-30 with a steel butt and said, here's your deer hunting rifle. I'm 12 and I weigh 82 pounds. I might as well have been shooting a 375 at that age. I was scared to death of the dadgum thing.
Take your shoulder off.
Right. And I started my kids on 22s, and then I bought a 11-pound single shot 223. And we have deer feeders, and the shots are like 75 yards. So it's a completely practical rifle. Our deer aren't very big. They're standing right there. We got a deer stand. We got a bag. I put the sandbag. I mean, I would just cheat the whole thing, right? You want them to kill a deer.
Yeah, ease them into it.
An 11-pound 223, you can watch it hit prairie dogs. I've done it. You just put it on a sandbag and you just go, boom, and you see them in the scope, boom, disappear. And it doesn't recoil at all. And kids are like, deer rifles don't kick at all.
Right?
And now they're shooting, 30-06s and stuff because they're bigger. And I think it's just a terrible experience when you really shoot something with, a 30-06 got moderate recoil, but when you're 12 years old, it doesn't.
Right.
It doesn't. It kicks like a mule. I mean, it's terrifying. So,
yeah.
All right. Well, we're supposed to be the dreaded archer. So, you have any archery questions for me?
Oh, I got a ton of archery questions for you. First,
right.
So how did you get involved in with the Ashby Foundation in his studies?
That is a hilarious question. Nobody's asked that, so good job. So when I fell in love with hunting big boars, which takes some work and you have to pass them, and I got to the point that when pigs would come in, I'd let them go. Like if the right pig, it's like deer hunting. If the right deer didn't come in, you don't shoot at them necessarily. I started having herds of pigs come, and I just sit there. I'm waiting. I got camera pictures of a big one, and I'm on a big one. And I may hunt 10 times before I see him because they don't make a lot of mistakes. The little ones are stupid as a hammer. They'll just come running in. The big ones do not make a lot of mistakes. And when they do, you got them. They're going to stand right there. If a big pig comes to the feeder, he's convinced he's not dying.
Okay.
He's convinced he's done everything right. And then you're going to get your shot. However, I was struggling killing them. At one time, I was probably 50% or less locating them. And I wasn't hitting them bad. I wasn't bonking them. I had a couple of mechanicals like not penetrate because they're really interesting structure. Their rib cage is really, really unique and all that. They're just sucking all the energy out of them. But I had a lot of arrows with a lot of half an arrow in them pigs. And the shot placement was decent. And they should have been dead, and I didn't find them. And I literally said to myself, I have guns. I'm like, I can just kill the stupid things. It's going to be as much hunting. I have a 44 lever action that's just beautiful to shoot them with. It just, the sound of it hitting them is fantastic because it's such a quiet round. But so I said, well, what I'm doing isn't as efficient as I want. And they're 17 yards standing there. It's not like I stalk some, but it's too hard to video. So I said, I have nothing to lose doing what this crazy Ed guy, this is probably 2014. It's the only book of literature out there that's different than the whole industry. And I have nothing to lose. And this guy's shooting a longbow through a ton, a 1,500-pound animal. I'm shooting 200-pound animals, and I can't penetrate them. So I dared to add 100 grains, spine up to 300, add 100 grain insert, and dared to get 125 grain cut on contact, which was a Magnus. And I started shooting. Well, I started just shooting pigs after that because I wasn't convinced this was going to work. So I'm not shooting the big ones with it, right? I started shooting through them like they're not there. Like I'm talking skipping, going in the woods and killing the crap out of them. And this is before I sharpened. Now that I sharpen, it's even worse. I mean, I really kill them now. And so I was like, wow, I wonder what 700 looks like. So I have 4 longbows back there. I hunted with a trad bow for 10 years. I said, okay, I'm going to do Ed. I'm going to do the Ed thing. So I went trad. I went over 650. I went bare shaft tune. I got, this is the head, but it's now a shredder head. I cut some grooves in it because I'm experimenting with that. This is the actual broadhead I shot. This is the 190 grain grizzly that came out of the test as the #1 head. This is a long time ago, right? So there's a ton of single bells, but this is the head out of the study that came out being #1.
Okay. And
I went stalking, and I ended up shooting the biggest pig I've ever killed, which was 265 pounds. And on our place, that's a big, big pig. There's places with a lot bigger ones, but we just don't have agriculture. I shot him quartering in. I hit him about right there. This arrow's going like 160. It's 54-pound longbow, shooting a 680 grain arrow that's about 22% forward to center with that single bevel on it, that exact broadhead. It penetrated 5 feet, and the broadhead popped out of his ham on his opposite side.
Oh, so you just went right through him.
It went all the way through him. And I was sitting there going, wow, like I'm used to walk, and they stop, or I get, half in them. This arrow, I'm 15 yards on the ground. He, they turn like this. So he turned to look at me, right? And he was just like, what are you doing over there? And it was about like that. And I just shot him. I said, well, if Ed's right, this is going to work.
Right.
And it went all the way through 5 foot of pig and popped out the ham. And I was like, you gotta be kidding. Well, he's on the ground spinning around. I thought I broke his back. He got up and ran off. And I said, well, I don't really like the hit. We waited 4 hours and we found him. He went 100 yards. And I was like, holy smokes. Now if I can get the velocity up with a compound, it'll be going 220 instead of 160. That should help, at least my trajectory. And then the rest is history. It went off from there. How I got on the foundation was I started posting videos about what I was doing. And I get an email from Ed.
Oh, wow.
And it says, hey, this is Ed Ashby. You need to call me sometime. And he's kind of that guy. He's like the nicest guy ever. You need to podcast with him. I'll send you his contact information.
Oh, cool.
He's so much fun. Oh, yeah. Get him on video. Get him on audio. He's the best guy ever. You call him, he's going to act like you're his best friend. Oh, yeah, Troy told me. Rah, rah, rah. He's that guy, right? He's just the best guy. So I was like, I replied, I look at it, and I go, oh, are you kidding? That's Ed, like the man. So I replied, I said, are you Ed, like the tall, study Ed? That I literally said, like that guy? And he replied, yeah, of course. Here's my number. Call me. And I called him, and we were best friends from the get-go. And, oh, yeah, right. He's like, hey, man, I want you to get on the foundation with us. That's what we're doing. So I went out to see him. And he's sitting there with his buddy Bill. And I pull up into he's got a couple 100 acres way out in the middle of nowhere, West Texas, near Rock Springs. I pull up, and he yells, are you a salesman? And I said, what? And he's got a pistol. And he shoots this target. Like it's safe. He wasn't shooting at me. He's got targets in front of him. He goes, boom, 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 boom. He goes, we shot the last salesman that came out. I hope you're not a salesman. And that's how I introduced to Ed Ashby. It was so old dude awesome. It was so much fun.
That's wild.
Oh, it was totally safe. Don't act like he was doing anything.
No, I know.
For those of y'all listening, but he had safe targets. But he was like, we shot the last guy. Bam, 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 bam. I was like, oh my God, I love this cat. So that's how that happened. And then I just continued to play around. I shot 1,000 grain arrows. I've continued to, tinker with this, tinker with that. And it's really been fun. And when I met the hunting public guys is when my channel really took off. I mean, get all credit to them. I was out there kind of in the middle of nothing. And then when I did a couple of podcasts with those guys, it just went, and it really took off.
Oh yeah, I really love those guys because they made me feel good about hunting public land. Because like around here, it's if you don't got private land, you ain't hunting nothing, And
Yeah.
like man,
They
I
were in
need
the
to,
Dakotas last year, and Zach killed a hell of a deer.
yeah, I think they were out on. I want to say they were West River.
They
Out,
were west in Dakotas because I was in North Dakota on the other end of the state on the border. That was a stupid move. That's way too far to drive. And Zach killed a hell of a deer out there. Stalking. Of course, he only hunts on the ground. He doesn't have the patience for sitting in a tree.
The tree
He'll go
saddles
crazy.
and all that.
Oh, he does. It just ain't his game.
So you drove from Texas to North Dakota.
Yeah, to some pissant town in North Dakota. I don't remember the name of it. Literally 20 miles from the Canadian border. Went up to hunt with the tethered guys, with Shane Simpson and with Garrett from DIY Sportsman. That was the dumbest thing I've done. Well, I've done dumber stuff, but as far as driving to go deer hunting, that was a dumb deal.
So
Too far.
I'm sure you had to drive through Sioux Falls.
I'm sure.
Yeah, Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Yep.
Yeah, I'm sure we drove through a lot of corn. I know
Yep.
that. There was a lot of corn, a lot of agriculture.
Oh yeah.
And it was fun to go. And I saw deer. I made the mistake of I had some does at 15 yards and I should have shot one. Because I've never shot a deer on public, right? I should have just shot a deer.
Right.
Because I've never done it. And I was just like, well, we'll see some deer. They were right there. I mean, they were standing right there, 15 yards, maybe 10. And I was just an idiot. I should have blasted one of them. Second morning, they walked right down this. We were hunting on an oxbow, and they walked right out of the oxbow and just walked right under me. And I was like, oh, that was cool. And then I went, oh yeah, you're hunting on public. You just shoot a deer. Like you don't let them pass. And it's probably good for the ecosystem to shoot a few does out because everybody's hunting horns, right?
Yep, everybody's hunting horns. Like my dad, he has a philosophy. He goes, I've never found a recipe for antlers.
Yeah, right. No,
so
there's no fact. There's no doubt.
If you're a doe if it's opening day and the sun come up and you're a doe and Tunsi Reed is out hunting, it's a wrap.
Yeah,
I ain't got time to wait for antlers. And he even last year, sun came up and I'm sitting in a tree stand. I'm probably about 150 yards from where I got him set up at. And I'm talking, the sun comes up and
yeah, right.
Now I'm like, already?
Country's out, baby.
Yep.
Tagged.
And he's like, I'm tagged. I'm going back to the house.
I was really dumb because my son was there. He was videoing for me. He was about 10 yards behind me. It was a perfect setup. He could see me. He could see the deer. It was a big mistake on my part. Especially would have been good for the channel for me to shoot a deer once in a while. And then to do it on public would have been a big deal. I wasn't even thinking. I was just like, we'll shoot some deer. Come on by. It's stupid me. But nonetheless.
You can always go back.
I'm not going back there. I'll go somewhere closer. Hang on.
I feel you.
Yeah, it's too far. Way too far.
So why should archers be concerned with FOC? Because my channel is for guys, my show is for guys who are getting into archery. So guys getting archery, why should he be so concerned with FOC?
So the Rocket Man answer, and remember Rocket Man worked for the DOD shooting things going Mach 5. That would be 5 times the speed of sound. Amazingly, most of them look like arrows. They're long and skinny and heavy as hell. And they got to hit the target. So the forward to center thing is aerodynamic stability. And this is a fact. You can go to NASA research. You can get on the internet and research how things are weighted and how things fly. The key here is, and Ed said this, and I did not realize how profound this is. So I'm going to unpack this so you can say, wow, I never thought of that because I spent a couple of years thinking about An arrow is always flying.
Until it hits
It's
something.
flying in the air, and it is flying through meat. It does not stop flying because it hits something. The more stable you can get the projectile when it hits something harder and has to fly through it, the more penetration you will get, because it won't cattywampus, kick, or try to bend or stop, right?
Right.
It's very stable. And what the forward to center thing does for you is you're putting a big heavy bullet on the front of a tail. That's a completely different mindset about the stability of the flying object when you're not flying the whole thing, okay?
Right.
You're flying 300 grains right here, and it happens to have a stability tail on it. It's a totally different mindset, and it's aerodynamically quite factual. Now, you need to bare shaft tune. I've got a bunch of videos on that on my channel about how to bare shaft tune, at least fletch tune. And that's what my channel is mostly. It's 99% education. So if you're new to this, you can go deep into the rabbit hole and snort your fairy dust and have a great time with that.
Oh yeah.
But it's you want stability on impact. So in the archery industry, there's a ton of talk about the flying to. I'm not concerned about flying it to them. I want perfect flight. I want to fly through them. And the difference between Ed and the foundation and me, because of him, it's just me presenting Ed. Nothing I've talked about is original. It's all Ed's information.
Right.
I just am the new voice of details from the study. I will take no credit for that whatsoever. I got my own presentation style. I'm a little whacking. I will kick you in the balls a couple of times. Fair. I got that. I know I'm caustic sometimes. I got that. But I'm just representing what Ed already found out. When your mindset changes from how do I build a stick that'll shoot through the deer, and then I'm going to figure out how to get it there, you're completely different than 99% of the archery industry. Because we all watch all the superhero guys on their YouTube channels, on his Instagram, whatever those reels, is that what they're called?
Reels.
Yeah, reels. Mm-hmm. Whatever. They're shooting their bow to the target. They're not discussing what's going to happen when it gets through the target. They think it's going to go through the target. Deer. Okay, it's not going through an archery target. Thank God. Or we'd never get our sticks back and they'd break. Right? That'd be bad. It's reusable ammo. But when you're, a couple of years ago, my mindset just changed completely from, wow, it's all about shooting through them. It's all about shooting through them. Then how do we get it there? So that's where the forward to center thing comes in, is you got this ton of mass in the front, you got a tail behind it, and then at impact it's super stable and doesn't redirect or break. Broadheads don't bend, they're sharp, that kind of thing.
So when did Ed do his study? Like what year?
So it's 27 years.
27 years?
It was over a 27-year period. You can go to ashbybowhunting.org if anybody wants to go read all the studies. It's super detailed. He did so much work. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable the amount of work we put in. So I believe it started in the late 70s and finished in the 90s sometime, maybe the early 70s. But he just kept going. And then I think he fell off a mountain and broke his back, and that's why he didn't move to compounds.
Right.
So he was a trad guy. He wasn't going to shoot a compound. Just that's the way he rolls. And quite frankly, when you're testing, one of the advantages of a giant animal like those buffaloes is the arrow does stop. Pass-throughs don't tell us anything. It doesn't tell you percentage-wise if you gained anything. He had a ton of pass-throughs in the study. But when you compare, say, like he did tip design, okay? He had 6 different tips that he chiseled in. He made reverse points. He made rounded. He made tonto tips. He made real tight needle points. 6 of them each, killed a buffalo or two, and shot 36 arrows into different buffaloes.
Goodness gracious.
And then measured the difference in penetration amongst those types of tips with detail. Like a really pointy, narrow tip, they tend to roll. They tend to curl. Well, it's flat.
Right.
It's going to stop. And so that's the kind of detail he did. But if you shoot completely through them over and over and over again, it doesn't tell you if you've gained anything. You just know pass through. It's kind of weird, but you can't measure it. And when he first said that, I was like, yeah, but it's the ideal result, right? He's like, yeah, but you can't measure it. Okay, we're 30 yards past it. Woo-hoo! Doesn't tell us anything.
Right.
And it's pretty amazing how much work he did. That study is so detailed. It's amazing anyone fights with it.
That's what I was getting to is he put all this work in over 27 years. Like what made the archery industry not adopt it? Like, hey, this, Ed did the study. We need to start incorporating it into the industry as far as
that's the $10,000 question, man. That's the $10,000 question. People still say he's crazy and there's all kind of holes in the study and there's a lot of mistakes and all this stuff. And we're like, where? Where? He cut there's a picture in the study. He got 2 hides, hung them over a rope, and did a sharpness study. And there's a picture of like 20 arrows in the hide. And he would make a file edge. And then he would make an edge that was filed, but buffed with a stone kind of thing. And then he would strop one to, shave your face sharp. And he studied the penetration through hides repeatedly over and over. It's not 2 shots per. That picture's got 20 arrows in that hide. So you had to get a buffalo. You had to shoot a buffalo. They rifle killed a bunch of them. It's impractical to try to bow hunt them, then to bow test them.
right.
Just run around with a 375 and shoot them in the head. Put them down. Somebody's got to skin the stupid thing. That's annoying. I mean, they're 12 or 1,300 pounds.
Right.
Get the skin off. Put that in the truck. Go somewhere. Put up a rope. Put the skins over the rope. Then sharpen broadheads. Then shoot it. And then document all the shots.
It's a very detailed
study. That's an easy day if you killed the buffalo at 8 in the morning.
That's all day.
It takes forever to do that stuff. So I don't know why it has never been adopted. And I get a ton of, my biggest hate mail stuff is just people saying that, I shoot deer and that's a ridiculous arrow. He was shooting buffaloes. And they don't understand that you need a subject that will stop it.
Right.
You need a test subject that will stop it. And plus, it doesn't hurt to have a shoulder blade that's humongous if you want to pound shoulder blades and see what happens. You can shoot it 3 or 4 times before you got to discard it.
Exactly.
So it's really the $10,000 question, and I don't know the answer. I don't know. I just know my big old my base arrow 640 grains with 200 grain single bevel on it. If that's my old reliable, and it just tunes out at 640 bare shaft perfect, and I can shoot broadheads 80 yards, and they just go. And it's just a different game. I mean, when you shoot through them with arrows like I'm talking about, I have multiple people a year send me pictures and say, I thought I missed, because they've shot a bunch of them with mechanicals in the past, and they hear the pop and the arrows in them half the time. And they said, I literally thought I missed. Then the deer ran 40 yards and fell over. And then I went, I guess I didn't miss.
Right? Animals on the ground, you didn't miss.
You didn't miss if they flop over. And that's another thing I discuss a lot on these podcasts, and I've talked about on my channel a lot. When you shoot through them that fast with a razor sharp, like when you cut yourself with a razor blade or something real sharp, or your face, like you may be shaving and cut your face, you don't necessarily feel it. Like it's not the same as a saw.
Right.
When you skip a soft piece of wood and it goes across your hand, and you just go, as
soon as
whatever.
it hit, you feel it.
You feel it, but those really sharp ones don't hurt as much. And then quite physiologically, factually, the chest wall from here down is not a high. There's not a lot of nerve endings in. Like when you get punched and stuff, it's dull. Like when you slam into walls and stuff, it's a dull feeling.
Right.
But it's not the high, like your neck or right here on the freaking into your nose when your friends grab your nose and jack around or crack you in the nuts or whatever. Bottom of your feet. I mean, they got, right under here.
Yeah, real
right?
tender.
But you get hit like in this chest area, and you've taken a lot of shots in football. It's more dull.
Yep.
Because there's not a ton of nerve endings. This is a fact. It's a physiologic fact. So that broadhead just goes through a kind of less sensory area. It's kind of rough language, but and it just zips through, and they don't know they're dead, so they don't run. They run, but they don't run the same. You watch those. To all you people listening, next time you're watching YouTube, watch those deer book it when they get hit with a mechanical.
Oh yeah,
they're
running, they don't miss a step. I mean, they're running until they hit the ground.
Booking it, right? They're booking it, and then when you see a really good, clean pass through, you'll just see them kind of hop and bound. They run like normal, like they don't know what happened, and that really helps your recovery rates because they're more prone to stopping out there when they're not scared. Whatever, running from whatever hit them. Could they both be dead in 50 yards? Yes, they could. I got that part. But when you hit them kind of wonky, or you don't get a good blood trail, or you shoot them and it exits like right in the armpit, like here, like a tree stand shot, this skin's real loose.
Yeah.
And it tends not to bleed real good because it's pinched up in the armpit and the skin just folds up and it doesn't tend to bleed as well. They're dead as a hammer. But if they go 150 yards or they go 50 yards, it's a whole lot easier day when they're close.
Oh, exactly.
And that's, one of the reasons why sharp and shooting through them is ideal. I've seen it. It's one of the things that really started happening on the pigs. I really stopped tracking. I mean, meaning I don't have to spend a lot of time out there.
Right.
Kind of run over there.
Right down there, right around the way.
They kind of go 50 yards and 60 yards and they go down.
So explain adult arrows, because I've watched your videos. I've seen the t-shirts, and I'm like, I gotta build adult arrows.
That was a more of a jab at everybody. So I have a friend he passed away named Billy Sandifer. He's my surf fishing guru. He was like the old man in the sea. He's one of those guys that say, well, they're going to bite today on the old red and white worm, and you're driving down there, and he already knows. And he said to me one day, he said, hey, man, I saw some jacks, and they're going to take some adult fishing gear, meaning they're big, right?
Yeah.
And I laughed my butt off at that. I was like, yeah, we got regular fishing gear. We need an adult fishing rod for these guys because they're big ones. And that stuck in my head. So when I started talking about it, I was more of a jab at the industry and some of the really light stuff that's going on out there, relatively unstable, hard to make a fixed blade fly because the shaft itself is just out of control.
Right.
And I just said, there's no real, if I was to explain adult arrows now, and I probably need to do a video on this, I would say if you're gonna shoot an adult arrow, you start at the point. You work on the broadheads first. Mindset is what happens when it hits them. I don't care how it gets there, and I'm not worried about that. I'll deliver it. Okay, I'll figure out how to deliver it. Mindset is penetrate through them, and I would start with the broadheads, not bending, not breaking, being sharp. And then I'd work the system back through the shaft, bare shaft, tune the shafts, get them flying, get them tight, get the broadheads flying, and that would be an adult arrow. Obviously, it's associated more with mass than anything now.
Right.
But if I had to work it backwards now, the broadheads are so important. It's the only thing that kills them.
That's it. It's the only thing. Out of the whole arrow, the broadhead is the only thing that's going to put them down.
Camouflage, truck, stabilizer bars, all this stuff, all of it can help. Got it. But there's a whole lot of money burned on stuff that doesn't matter, and then you don't tune arrows and you don't sharpen your broadheads, and you're behind the 8-ball there. So it's really, really, meaningful to have a broadhead that's not going to collapse.
Oh yeah.
Or possibly fail.
I from time to time I'll volunteer down at my pro shop that I go to, and
Uh-huh.
young cats come in and you know not they might have dabbled in archery a little bit, but now they got a little bit of money in their pocket and they want to come in. And
Mm-hmm.
the first thing is I want the most expensive bow, I want the
Mm-hmm.
most expensive arrows, and I want the full metal jackets or
Mm-hmm.
the axes. They want the micro arrows. And the pro shop that I go to, the guy that runs it, he's kind of old school. Says, "Hey, you don't, yeah, I sell it, but if you're getting into it, you know, he kind of direct them into what they really need and not what they want."
Mm-hmm.
But of course, they've watched YouTube and they've Instagram
Yeah,
and
sure.
looking at all the ads and they want all that stuff, and it's just like
Mm-hmm.
you're wasting a lot of money on you're putting so much stock into what's on your bow that they
Mm-hmm.
don't the arrow. They're just kind of like, well, I need this because this guy shot it, but they don't think about what they're going to do with it.
No, I agree with that, and it's just like the little adapt. I've got the Hunting Publix adapt sitting right back there. That little single cam they came out with that this year. They can't keep them in stock.
My,
It's a
my
six
shop,
hundred. It's
they
a
sell them.
$600 bow,
Yep.
and they can't keep them in stock. The damn thing shoots awesome. It's nice and smooth. It ain't gonna scare you to death with the speed. I got that. Super boring, and it's a fantastic launcher. And buy a $600 bow and spend $400 on arrows. Get real broadheads, get real arrows, and spend a bunch of time getting them to fly right. The
Right.
Ranch Fairy channel is a good place to go for that. I
Exactly.
will pump myself because I'm the only one talking about that stuff. Everybody talks about the bow. So the archery industry is backwards for bow hunting. If you're shooting 3D and spots, that's a completely different game. Don't tell anybody, but the spot shooters put 200 grain points in their shafts. Don't tell them. They glue them in.
Oh, I know.
FY.
I shot one tournament, and I got the Eastern Fat Boys, and they put these
Mm-hmm.
heavy broadheads in them, or
Amazing how they
points.
put the heavy points in there. Why do they do that? Because they're more accurate.
Yep.
They do it. I did that. I busted a guy on that, but that's not where we're going here. So you need to worry about getting your arrows to fly right and learn to sharpen broadheads and make sure they're sharp. Don't trust the factory. There's a lot of companies making great broadheads that are sharp. Don't trust them. Check them. Be an adult. Check them. It's the only thing that's going to kill anything.
Right.
And there'd be a lot shorter blood trails and a lot more grip and grins if people would take the time and invest in the shooting part and the tuning part and the sharpening part of the stick and just get your bow shooting pretty straight. I didn't do much to the adapt. They sent me a rest and all that stuff. Aaron had them send me one of them. And I was going to do a video on it, and then they sold out. And I was like, okay, well, there's no reason to put more pressure on the freaking system. They bombed them, right?
It's
So
wild.
that's good, good for Bear, and it's it's going to be a good relationship there. But I love that thing. It's right up my alley. I got a 60-pounder, super smooth, just whoop, kaboo, and heaviest arrow I've shot off at 790 grains. It shoots just fine. And oh yeah, no, that's a fun arrow. That's really good.
See,
That's
I'm getting to the point where I want to start building out my arrows because I go to my shop
mm-hmm.
and he'll I'll tell him what I want and he'll kind of he'll give me what he think I need. And it's like, nah, this is
Yep.
what I want. So I got to
Yeah,
start
right.
building my own, and
Mm-hmm.
I just I got to follow your process and figure out what's the right the right grain for my bow. Because
What's your draw length and draw weight?
my draw weight is 75 pounds and my
Okay.
draw length is 28 and a half. No, 28 is 28.
Okay, 250. You need to
250.
be shooting a 250 spine arrow. Do not get Carbon Express because their charts backwards. Do not get Full Metal Jackets because their hit system is terrible. Do not get any arrow with a hit system in them. And you're probably shooting a 340.
400 victory carbon trace.
Oh, 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 oh.
But I do have some 340 gold tip hunters in the garage. But this is what I hunted with last year.
Okay, well, we killed a deer. Can we adult now? Okay, listen. You're already tuned up. You're good to go. Don't mess with it right now. But when you decide to jump off the bridge, get some 250 spine, go with Victory since you got them. They make a 95 grain outsert for those things.
Mm-hmm.
You might have to order. And then what you're shooting, what looks like a 3-blade, like a Montec or something like that. Looks like.
Yeah, Muzzy.
Okay, that's fine. You
Yep.
can shoot those. That's fine. And then and go sling them around. I would just get fletched ones. I've got a 4 fletch video. It's 4 fletch, but you can do it with 3.
Okay.
Okay. Buy a few 250s. Get the heavy inserts put in them. Just order them and have them shipped in or whatever. They're easy to glue in. Drop them in. I've messed with those shafts a lot, and they're good arrows. And get your 100 or 125 grain point, whatever you're flinging around, and you'll shoot the fletched arrow, and then number all of them, and shoot them. And if they all go in the same spot, and put a broadhead on. Just get one broadhead for practice. You don't need to. Muzzies have practice blades.
No, the ones I bought, they didn't come with one.
Okay. Get one broadhead that'll be your just shoot it and don't worry about it. Don't even sharpen it. Just leave it in your box as your practice point. Shoot every arrow with broadheads.
Yeah, I don't shoot with only time I shoot with field points is when I'm going out to the range. If I'm at home, it's straight broadheads.
Good for you. That's smart. And then if you have, even with your current arrows, if you have an arrow that kind of just decides he doesn't like to play and he's 2 inches off, turn the nock to the next position and rotate the fletchings so they'll clear your cables, but rotate it and shoot it again.
Okay.
And generally speaking, they'll start tracking. It's called nock tuning. But I would have you in a 250 all day with a 95 grain point and have you at about 500, and you'd be about 550, 18%, going about 75 pounds. You're probably going to be going to about 260. And they're going to hit like a freaking hammer when they get there. The downrange energy is phenomenal.
Like I watch your videos and like I find myself like watching it and then I have to go back. Like I know I gotta have him explain that to me again.
Right? Yeah, I know. I need to put pauses in there and say, if you got to stop, go back. I need to do that. I just did a video where I said, hey, there's a bunch of numbers and spreadsheets on some of the study stuff we're doing, and I just made a pause in the middle. I said, hey, that was a lot of numbers and stuff. You might want to go back right now and just massage that into your skull, because it's that's a lot of stuff going on and no one's talking about it. I mean, there's nobody talking about it, and it's super critical.
So like when you go to ATAs and you giving your seminars, are people like warming up to it?
No, it's about 50-50. I had a bunch of this, and then I had people who were just wondering what the hell the freak's doing over there. And then I had a bunch of people who were fans there. So it's about a 50-50 audience. I gave a talk on downrange energy, which we studied using a lab radar, and there's no flaws in it. There's no opinions or I like this or I like that. It's just math showing how much energy is lost at 60 yards with a 388 grain arrow versus 700. Somewhere in between there is also a pretty good arrow as well. But the curve for the energy goes like this towards the heavy arrows. And the heavy arrows are out here. And the 388 grain arrow lost a pile of energy at 60 yards. So if you're shooting at an elk on target, I think it was 50% of the heaviest arrow we shot.
Of how much energy you lose.
Because the arrow's slowing down. The aerodynamic drag's eating it up. The atmosphere is eating it up.
Right.
On the way down there. One of the biggest challenges with flying things is you're pushing the atmosphere out of the way. Like the atmosphere has mass. It's 14.7 psi at sea level. We don't know it because it's always pressing on us. Like fish are underwater. They don't know the water's heavy because they've always been a fish. They weren't human and they go in the water and say, wow, right? We don't conceptualize it. You're not shooting in a vacuum. If you're in a vacuum, you wouldn't need sights. You'd shoot. It would just shoot. It wouldn't drop in a vacuum.
Oh.
It wouldn't, or no zero gravity. It would not drop. You could just shoot as far as you wanted to. It would just keep going, right?
Go forever.
But gravity and then aerodynamic drag. The vacuum part is there's no atmospheric pressure. You can't breathe and you die, so you wouldn't even get one shot off. But if you could shoot into a vacuum, there's no aerodynamic drag because there's no pressure from the atmosphere. So conceptually, it's like shooting through fog. That's the clear, that's the mental image you should have, is that you're shooting, you can see fog, so you understand it's in the way.
Right.
Well, when you're shooting in the atmosphere and it's clear, the air has mass and it's pushing against it and pushing the atmosphere out of the way. Really light objects don't push it as hard. It's that simple. It's called aerodynamic drag. There are thousands of articles on it.
But yet the archery industry ignores it.
Yeah, 100%. They just ignore the facts. And then, the aerodynamics industry has been trying to figure this out. The motorcycle guys have a hell of a time with it. I think some guy said to go 10 miles an hour faster, you have to add like 100 horsepower.
Dang.
Because the drag, the human and the gizmo pushing through. So that's something no one's talking about. And I would have never known it except for the Rocket Man.
Yeah, listen to him talk. That cat's smart. Mm-hmm. He's smart.
Right? They were developing on the podcast we did with Aaron a couple of weeks ago about the foam target that those guys did a great study on. Their conclusions were a little off, but it's fine. It's good to see people trying, right? We don't mind that at all. We love seeing people try. But he said 80% of the budget for the DoD was spent buying armor. Like studying what they got to punch through.
Right.
Then they design a projectile based on what they figured out that should penetrate. Then they back up and say, we'll deliver it with something.
Right.
In the archery industry, all we worry about is the delivery mechanism. And we say, certainly the stick will penetrate. Nothing could be further from the truth. It's totally backwards. So what Ed studied was, I'm going to completely disregard. He said, there's 12 factors. It can't break. Perfect aeroflight. Those are the first two. Perfect aeroflight's the most effort. It takes a while. It takes time. You really got to put in the reps and really take some time with that.
Right.
And then it's forward to center and edge angle and sharpness and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, it walks down from there. And then 650 grains is actually factor 11 or 12. Okay?
Okay.
Except, so 650 grains doesn't matter on a perfect shot.
It doesn't?
It does 350 grains. On a perfect hit, generally you're going to get away with it.
Okay.
Okay? But when a heavy bone is encountered, 650 jumps to number 4. So it can't bend. The broadhead can't fail. It's got to be flying, so it's stable because the arrows are always flying.
Right.
The forward to center needs to be high. That's what the study showed on heavy bone impacts. And then you need that mass so it won't slow down. So momentum in the world of physics, put simply, is how hard is it to stop? How hard is whatever you're measuring, how fast will it slow down? And big, heavy things keep pushing.
Yep.
We've all experienced that. Offensive linemen are annoying.
Yep.
They're big and heavy, and they just keep pushing, right?
Big running backs like Jerome Bettis.
Big running backs, yeah, exactly. They keep pushing, and you go backwards. And so that's the thing, is they spent 80% of their budget on the armor, and no one in the whole business in the archery industry studies the armor at all. They just assume if they make a gizmo. I get broadhead companies all the time talking to me, and I'm just like, you didn't study this at all. You just built a broadhead and called it the best whiz bang. I had one company say something about causing a sucking chest wound. Physiologically impossible at the velocities we're shooting. The FBI proved this like 100 years ago because they were having trouble killing people with pistols. They were having trouble with FBI agents getting in trouble because the pistols weren't performing.
Right.
And what they discovered was the rounds are so slow that there was no hydrostatic shock or anything. It was just going through people, which is better than not hitting them. I got
Right.
that. But they said hydrostatic shock and sucking chest wounds and all this other stuff started at 2,300 feet per second. I don't shoot 2,300 feet per second.
No,
But if you want to look up the FBI's data, it's out there.
That's like, wow. So when
right.
So when you look at the archery industry and you look at like the technology as far as bows, the gap is narrow, it's small as far as like where else can we go with bows? Like bows are the fastest they ever been in the history of archery. So where do you see the next innovation coming from? Is it the broadheads?
Oh, just in the industry, the broadheads have come along. The broadhead quality is as high as it's ever been. With the stuff we sell at Sirius, there's a bunch of other companies making great stuff that's not going to bend or break that you can sharpen. I get 1,000 messages a month from May to October, November. It's all arrows and bow problems. Or they've got my test kit. They say, hey, what about my tears? What do you think? Which one should I shoot? This kind of stuff. The bows have become unshootable.
Oh.
A lot of the companies are making bows that are so short. So if you're buying a bow, do not go under 30 inches, please.
I'm at 31.
Okay, you'll be fine. 34 is a dream. There's a reason why the Target guys and the 3D guys shoot 36 and 38-inch bows. Do you know why that is?
I don't.
They're stable. They're boring as hell. Most of those guys shoot moderate round wheels. You don't see at 3D. You see at 3D with your buddies, people shooting their hunting bows, shooting 3D.
Right.
That's a great practice. I think you should do that, right? It's the closest simulation. It's an animal target. Angles, up and downs, trees in the way. Beautiful practice. Do it. But if the guys that are seriously shooting 3D, they're not shooting a 28-inch bow that's super aggressive with cam. They're shooting a long, boring, and they have a 3D specific bow.
It's kind of like
that's the bow you should be hunting with.
Like the Matthews does the TXR, big, big long,
Right. They shoot those because they're accurate. And once again, when your mindset changes from how do you get the arrow to perform on target and how do we get it there, the bow should be getting longer, more stable, and seriously boring so that anybody can shoot them. So there's guys who, like you made it all the way to college football. You're an outlier, man. You're in the top 1% of athletes on the planet because you went all the way to a real college program and played football. I did not. I've never dunked. I've never run a 4.240. You know, everybody's different.
Right.
So when you build these crazy platforms that require a ton of either ability to be real repeatable, like you're just a machine and there's a certain subset of humans that can do that, but you're not addressing the broad, it's a bell curve, right? It's a bell curve. Like you played football and there's the bell curve and you were on the front edge of the bell curve or you would have never gone to college. It's just a fact. There was a bunch of clowns that played with you in high school that played or didn't get to play. They're still on the sidelines and they just didn't have whatever you've got.
Right.
The fastest guys in the world, the NBA guys, that's all the spot shooters and the top shooters in the world. They're the best in the world, so they can shoot more critical stuff. Although when they shoot spots in 3D, they shoot a long, boring bow. Right? And 200 grade points, don't tell anybody.
Right, don't tell nobody.
Don't tell nobody that. It's more stable. Don't want to tell anybody that. But I think what they need to do, and I think what Aaron Warbritton comes hunting with me every year, and we do all our videos and stuff. We have a great time. Those dudes are freaking legit awesome. They are good dudes. Like, they are great humans, man. I mean, they're just fun to hang out with. They clean up after themselves. They have manners. Like, they're not arrogant at all. They're just like they are on camera. They're jacking around, truck is stuck, all the stupid crap that happens to them. They're just kids running around, right? They're having a great time. Good for them. But he had a super aggressive, very fast, really crazy dual cam thing. And he just hated it because it was really hard to shoot. It was real picky, right?
Right.
And when he talked to Barry, he said, I want a launcher. Like, I want something, the way we hunt, running through the woods, banging stuff, beating the hell out of our equipment. It can't be some, thing that gets a little rain on it. It's going to shoot sideways.
Right.
Because it's going to be in the mud. It'll be in the back of the truck. Who knows, right? And so kudos to Aaron and the guys for coming out with something that's real stable, real boring, great price point. And I'm not really pumping that. I think that's where the bows need to go. There's a couple of companies making really good stuff that's boring as hell. And boring, what I mean is they just shoot for a lot of different people. That's what boring is. It's not a boring system. Like, their bows are cool looking. They got good camouflage, all that stuff, right? You won't look bad walking through the woods. It won't be pink or something. But although you could get one, it's boring in the sense that you could cover that bell curve.
Right.
And the maximum number of people could get it to shoot real good, right?
That's what when I talked to Aaron Lasco about the Easy V, he was that he didn't say boring. He said it's not fancy. He goes, my sight's not fancy, but everybody can use it. It's gonna get the job done. You're gonna put animals down if you use it. And
it's a beautiful system. It's so dumb. It's awesome.
Yep.
Once you learn, you and I were talking about this before we fired it up, that you're going to start playing with the Easy V. So if anybody plays with the Easy V, you got to forget everything you do at pins. You stop thinking about distance. All you think about is how much stuff's in the V. Literally get it zeroed. He's got great videos on his channel, how to zero the thing. He's got a target you put up. It's got pins on it for 20 yards. And then because it's a V, it's calibrated for speed. And as the arrow slows down, as you'll move it up, and all you're thinking about, V here somewhere, is how much stuff is in there.
It's right there in that V.
And at close range, you'll have that much. It'll look like this. And at long range, it'll still be about the same amount of stuff. It's really crazy. And it's amazing how accurate it is for hunting distance.
Yep.
I love that thing. I love the thing.
It's what my buddy Will, I mean, he's an advocate. I mean, anytime we go anywhere and he sees somebody shooting a 5-pin, single pin, hey man, try the Easy V. You got to try the Easy V. You got to try the Easy V.
Oh yeah.
And like I said, I wasn't a believer in it. And then I watched him shoot. I'm like, I mean, he's not worried about range.
No, I don't know how far anything is anymore.
Nope.
I zero it
and go.
And you go.
And it's
amazing.
Yep. I mean, there's been deer where I've spooked because I was trying to do all this, and
you don't have to do that. You just draw back, and you just learn to let your brain see the meat and trust it. Don't think. Literally, it's you're thinking, but you're not. You just flip that thing up there, and you'll learn. You'll say, and your brain just goes, "That's about right." I shoot it backwards. Like, I shoot on the side. I shoot it pro style. I came up with that.
Style.
I just shoot the backside. So the front side has tick marks for 20, 30, 40, 50.
Right.
You could use it with a rangefinder. The backside's just slick. And that's what I shoot. Now, I don't shoot very far. But when I went nil guy hunting with meat eater guys, with Giannis, and when I go elk hunting and when I go stalking, I just shoot it that way. But your brain just sees your brain will just go, that's how much is supposed to be in there. And you just go, "Fuck-oop," and just follow through and let her eat.
Yeah,
it's really fun.
It's amazing. Like the more efficient thing, the best things in archery are the stuff that's not as fancy. It's not as basic as you say. Boring.
It's boring.
It is what it is, but it gets the job done. And it's crazy how those things are the best things smoking.
No, yeah. The hardest thing to do is to have a slider and a rangefinder. Might they be the most accurate thing for shooting away the hell out there? Probably so. Okay, but you got a range, and then you got to move your slider. I mean, I went videoing with a person I will not name, and this person had a slider and a rangefinder, and we were stalking ibex or something on this ranch in South Texas it was a high fence place, and they had kudu and freaking all kind of crazy axis deer. And we got on these scimitar horned oryx. It was oryx. There were like 20 of them out there, and one was of about 40. And by the time we got done messing with everything, they literally just walked off. They were just walking by. And they stopped a couple times. They're laser and turn the thing, and then they'd take 9 steps and laser and turn the thing and laser and turn the thing, and they just walked right in the brush. And I was like, easy V, cling,
Money.
gone. Right, for hunting, right? I'm not going to say you're going to go shoot the greatest 3D score you ever saw shooting that thing. You're probably better off with a slider when you can stand there and pick your nose and range it or whatever.
Right.
Or however you judge it. Okay, so you've got to separate that. How much time it takes you to get off a shot in 3D is not a very good hunting application in your head.
Well,
people do it.
That's why he called it the world's first bow hunting site.
It's the only bow hunting site on the planet.
Yep.
The rest of them are target sites applied to hunting. He's right. I know Aaron very well. I helped him out early on when the channel was just taking off. I happened to get one. I did a bunch of videos on it, and I think it helped him. I mean, we're on first name basis, calling him, and he picks the phone up, and we lie to each other every 6 months or so, and blah, 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 and this, that, and the other. But he's a really genuinely good dude, and that's a hell of a system for hunting.
Oh, it is. Actually, that was the first video of yours that I watched was the EZV.
Oh, really?
EZV site. Yeah, and I was like, so I saw it, I'm like, because I was looking for a new site, and I was like looking, I'm like, that seems pretty neat. But I couldn't find it anywhere at all, like nowhere, because none of those shops around here carry it. And then
he had to go just website only because the shops, you have to kind of explain it. If the shops aren't into it, they're not going to sell it. It's not on the shops. They don't have time, right, to sit around for 30 minutes trying to help you figure it out. I'm not bashing on the shops. I'm just saying it takes some selling to get the mentality. But listen, if you've got a 5-pin sight and you're going to go to a 6, it's the same damn thing. It isn't. Nothing changed.
Right.
It isn't. It's pins. Oh, I got vertical pins. Okay. It's pins. They're all in line like this, and they're all kind of cool. I got that.
And they crowd your vision. Yeah.
They crowd your vision.
So,
but you're going to just see down the pipe, and you can see the arrow go right down the V. It's beautiful.
I'm gonna go outside, like I said, after we do this, and I'm gonna film a little video and play with it.
It's super fun. It's really just, it's a very practical site. Like I said, do you have this? You have the target. You have the target that he sends and all that.
Oh yeah. He sent me a whole bunch of targets. I got like 5 or 6.
Okay, so that target's got 2 spots on it. That's the width that you're going to be. So your bow's probably screaming, right? It's probably shooting 300 feet per second with that little arrow on it.
Yep.
Okay, so put whatever
like 312.
Okay, put the 310 insert in there. Okay, zero it at 20 using the marks on the target. You'll understand that. You may already do that. There's 2 dots on there, and that goes post to post. And then you just gang adjust it until you hit down the middle. Okay? Gotcha. Then back up and just keep moving the sight until it hits those 2 dots and pull the trigger. And don't think. And it's going to go right down the freaking pipe every time.
Just let it fly.
Let it fly. And then eventually what will happen to you is your brain will start to see that gap. It's hard to explain that, but your brain will just, brains are amazing.
Right.
It'll learn what it wants to see. And that's how I describe the EZV. Eventually you get to the point that your brain just says, that's it. Dunk. And then go shoot 3D with it. You'll blow yourself away, man. If you follow through and everything, right? You make a mistake, blah. But I really love that site. It's really helped me. And it's great at night. I didn't expect that to be good at night, but with a bow-mounted light, when you light the pigs up, you can see the V.
Oh yeah, because it's you get like the sapphire green one that just.
No, it's not. I don't have lights on. I don't have the tapes in it or anything. But when you light the pigs up, because it's dark, the sight's black. Like there's no light on it.
Right.
So it's dark, like it's real dark. Well, the pig's lit up.
So then all you gotta do is just raise it up.
The V's on them. They're lit up bright red, right? And the V's black because it's nighttime.
Right.
And you just go, oh wow, it works the same. Kavoop. Sorry about that. Coming through. Or
right. So do you recommend archers to have a different setup for depending on what animal they're hunting?
No, I don't. So that's another great question. You are above average in the intuitive world. People don't ask me that very often. So I don't advocate. I advocate for broadheads that don't break, 550 plus grains, perfect flight, broadheads fly. Okay, and sharp. We've discussed that to death. But big and small animals all have big bones.
Right.
They all have a humerus. They all have a humerus knuckle. They all have shoulder blades. And behind the shoulder blade hides, the spine's behind it. So it's like an impact. It's like a catcher's mitt with a horizontal flexi dealer whopper. It just goes like that when it hits them. It just sucks the energy out of them. So I don't recommend changing. I recommend going up in mass, learning to shoot your bow with the bigger, heavier stuff, and go hunting. Because this is a funny response to this. I get this a lot. They're like, yeah, well, I hunt deer. In that statement, philosophically speaking, they are admitting that they would not, that's not a Cape Buffalo arrow. When you say, I only hunt deer, I don't need a big old heavy arrow, you're saying there's something out there that requires a big heavy arrow.
Right.
People don't think about that. Okay. Cape Buffalo arrows start at 800 grains. You don't even mess around. Don't even shoot. 750, 800 is a normal. 1,000 is real good on them. And I can guarantee you I can take an 800 grain arrow and kill a deer. I could shoot them just about anywhere with an 800 grain arrow, a single bevel broadhead, and it's going to break them. On quarter and two shots, I'd just aim right at the bones, man. I'd be like, walk with an 800 grain arrow. With a 400 grain arrow, you and your Cape Buffalo are going to have a disagreement.
Yeah,
they're going to
come
he's
after
going to
you.
laugh at you, and I'm sure somebody's gotten away with it. Slip one perfect, it broadhead hits vertical and goes in 19 inches and gets them. I know it's probably been done. It's just not a good way for. It's not good for your health.
No, not at all. I know. I want to know when I let that arrow go. I don't care if I hit bone or it just goes right straight through. I want to make sure the animal is down. I don't want to take a chance. Well, it might hit a bone, it might not.
There's no way around that. They're covered with bones. The whole damn thing's a bone. Rib cage, shoulder blades, humerus bones, all that stuff. So, yeah, we need to make some upgrades. I need to see.
I got you.
Damn it! I think I sent the last 250s to Aaron. You may get a love package here later. I may have some of those victories around. I built 4 or 5 for somebody the other day and shipped them off to them because they wanted to play with a heavier platform. But I'll see if I got them laying around. 28 inches carbon to carbon or 28 inches knock to tip?
20 inches knock the tip.
So you're what, 6 feet tall?
No, I'm 5'8". 5'8".
Oh, okay.
I'm short.
Running back.
Yep, running back. Yep, yes, sir.
Okay. Oh, you got to hit people. That's so much fun.
I think that was my demise. I was short, but I like contact.
I know, but most of the guys aren't that big, right? You're little bowling balls.
I know. But
even the pro guys aren't that big. A lot of them are tiny. Well, they're not tiny humans; they're thick humans. But you're a running bowling ball. There's nothing to grab. It's like grabbing a feral hog. What the hell are you going to grab?
Right.
There's nothing to grab on the feral hogs. You can grab a deer's neck or head or something, kind of wrestle them around, get a hold of the legs. Feral hog's like a running barrel. Ugh, I'd hate to grab one of them things.
Yes, but I like running to the, like most running backs like running away from the contact. I'm running to it. So if some guys will juke you out, I'm like, no, I want to run through you. I want to feel it.
Right. You'll remember it in the third quarter.
Yep.
After the first 2 times,
you're gonna think twice. You're gonna think twice, like, he's already hit me 5 or 6 times.
My son was tiny, and he played football in middle school, and he made the C team. But he wanted to be on the C team because the C team players got to play. Like the A team, they already knew who those guys were from years of football.
Right.
And he goes, I'm playing on the C team because I'll get on the field. I'm like, okay. So it's all the scrub kids. It's kind of cool that they have a C team. So at least you get to run around and beat on each other some.
Right.
So he played defensive back, and one team had an A and a B and about half a C. So they moved some of the B kids. So they had this big bowling ball kid that was running back. And he got loose on this run, and Thomas had been running to the end zone. It was about 30 yards from the end zone. Here comes this kid just moving, right? He's got Thomas double the size of Thomas. Thomas is 5 yards from the end zone, right? He reaches out and slaps at the ball, and the kid scores. And I said, wow, okay, whatever. He comes off the field. I said, man, what was up with that? He goes, he was going in the end zone with me or without me. I'm not stupid.
Right?
The kid had a 20-yard head of steam. Right? He was just moving. He's like,
might as well not get hurt in the process.
Yeah, right. He's going to score. Like, I was going to get killed, and he was going to score with me. He was going to pick me up and carry me in as well. So hell with that. I just tried to get a fumble.
Right.
Like, that's a very practical football player. You're just not going to have a long history of doing it.
but you know, surprisingly, there's a high percent chance that kid could have fumbled the ball, because most running backs, when they get that close, they kind of let their guard down and then knock it out.
Right. No, he was definitely avoiding the blasting him back 10 yards, and the kid scores and runs over him, stepping on him as he goes through the end zone. So it was super funny on that. But that's another example of big old heavy arrow. You don't want that happening to you, right? Yeah, it's been a fun journey, and we'll keep plugging. It's just getting started, I think. It's been a little disruptive with the industry. It's been funny to, like you said about ATA, it's funny to be I am the only outlier there. I get a lot of, when I walk by, and I get a lot of people like, oh my God, it's a ferry. You know, it's weird to have people want to take pictures with you. Like, I'm the dude in the neighborhood who fixes cars. You know, I mow my own grass. I just fixed my refrigerator. You know, I'm that dude. And I'm Uncle Troy to like 38 kids. And I coached baseball for 10 years. And I'm just like, that's and it's just weird. People say, oh my God, Troy, you're the fairy. And I'm like, yeah, I'm just like, got to do a brake job when I get home. Yeah.
Well, hey, it's cool being a market disruptor, or in your case, an industry disruptor. Like, I read a book a few years ago called the Innovator's Dilemma, and it's about, you know what I'm talking about? You read that book?
I read it. Oh,
yep.
Of course.
And I love the book because it's about all these companies that just like, they got content with where they were, and some guy who's thinking outside the box just comes through, invents something, and changes the whole industry.
Or he was at the store, at the shop, and said, hey, we ought to try this. They go, nah, that's too expensive. Okay. And he just trundles right over their company.
Yep.
Malcolm Gladwell has a bunch of books that are really good. David and Goliath, Outliers. That kind of stuff. Those books are phenomenal.
Love Outliers.
Yeah, right. And Good to Great is another great one. Yeah. Good to Great is if you're a human being over the age of 25, you should read Good to Great. I mean, that book is phenomenal. And then the other great books are the Freakonomics books are, I mean, that's all about outliers. The Freakonomics and Super Freakonomics.
I'm going to check them out.
Two economists who, you got to read those books. It's all about these outlier. They talked about why drug dealers live with their mom. And they went through this whole economic analysis of a drug culture. So there's a guy at the top, and then he's got his middle management guys, and then he's got the guys on the street. They get all the press for shooting each other and crap. And they talked about how the books work and all that stuff, but it's illegal. So eventually they get caught or whatever, and they end up living with their mom. Like, they're making all this money, and then they get busted, right?
Right.
So, but they walk through like an economist of the whole business model, and they've got the books, and some of the people are quite sophisticated.
Oh, yeah.
Top of those drug businesses. And then they say, well, you know, but at the end of the day, you're eventually going to jail, and then you'll be with your mom because you won't have any money left.
There was a little time in my life where I was like fascinated with like the mob and how all that stuff worked. And it's like, these dudes were smart. They just
they're very smart. They're very smart. It's I've been listening to a bunch of podcasts about the mob and some guys who are FBI informants, guys who are mob enforcers, and that kind of stuff. And the guy's name is Jordan Harbinger podcast. He's been podcasting for like 10 years, and he gets all these great people who, like, one guy infiltrated one of the big biker gangs, the Mongols. Yeah, and he ended up being one of the top guys in the Mongols, and he was an FBI agent when he started. The stories are unbelievable. of what this guy went through, and then they busted the whole thing, right?
Is he the guy that got lost?
Yes.
Like he got so deep into it that he just like got
Yeah.
basically got lost in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Some of those guys do that, right? They have this guy talked about, actually, he did not get lost, but I've read what you're talking about. I heard about it. They said they have psych checks every 6 months to make sure you're not becoming a biker.
Right.
Like you're not getting lost in the culture. It just eats you alive because you're in it all the time. You can't leave. Hey, I got to be gone for a couple of weeks. Got to go to work. No, we're going to go beat some people up and steal some stuff. That's what we do for work.
This is your job.
We got guns and drugs to sell. I mean, we got plenty going on here. What are you talking about? So, yeah, Jordan Harbinger's podcast is phenomenal for that. And there's a bunch of guys who were in the mob. And one guy I just listened to, he was an enforcer for the mob in New York City. And he was like, okay, how do you get rid of the bodies? He's like, well, if you got to whack a guy, that's how he talks. Okay, so this guy does something, you got to whack him. And everybody's named like Fat Sal and Vinny. Yeah. I mean, it's like right out of a movie.
Right.
He said, one of the coolest things we did, they flipped him and turned him into an informant because he got busted. But for 18 years, he was an enforcer for the mob.
Goodness.
And he said, one of my buddies had a funeral home. So we'd get caskets for big fat people, and we put a fake floor in there. So we'd whack a guy, and we'd put him in the cooler, and the next time they had a funeral, we'd put him in the bottom and put a board over the top and put the real body in there. And out there in the church, they don't know there's another dude in the bottom of the thing. And he said, oh, yeah, they put him in the hole. They're gone forever. Nobody's going to dig them up. Old Fat Vinny had the old funeral home. We had that racket going for a while. Yeah, we got busted.
It's so wild how they just freely talk. It's like it's
he's like that. He's like, hey, you got to whack a guy, so we throw him in the river, but you got to punch a couple holes in them, put some weights on them because they'll float up if you don't do that. But yeah, we just put him in the bottom of a big fat guy's casket and put a board over the top of him, and then the real person to go on top, and somebody paid for the funeral, and then we'd see him go in the hole. We'd like, that's great.
Yep. Evidence no evidence.
No evidence. Nobody's going to go look in there. So
no,
it's really fun.
Oh yeah, Troy, this has been it's been a pleasure. I've enjoyed sitting here and chatting with you, man.
Of course.
Oh yeah,
of course. It's been great. It's been all over the place too. It's fun. And sometimes
you're right.
Some of the podcasts stay right on the rails. It's nice to talk to somebody who's intelligent and read a couple of books too. Not that I'm knocking anybody else on podcasts, but you've read some stuff. Innovator's Dilemma is a phenomenal book, and it's good to stretch the brain and that kind of stuff. I really like doing that.
Oh yeah, I try to read a little bit.
I try not like you read a little bit more than you put on, buddy.
I try not to be the dumb jock.
Yeah, right. You got enough of that,
right? So, like, is there anything big coming from the Ranch Fairy? Like, can we as Ranch Fairy fans expect like your own broadhead, your own arrow line? You got any big things in the works?
Arrows with Sirius.
I've seen those.
So that's the Ranch Fairy story. Just if you search that, if you want to see the arrow systems and things, and then I just came out with a 3-blade 200 grain broadhead because I'm going to start talking about this more. That I want you to take the next step. So I want you to get away from a multi-piece head or screw together something with some thin blades that are crappy that will eventually fail you, and certainly mechanical broadheads. But a 3-blade is not the best bone penetrator. And I admit that. And I talk about it when I did the review of it. And I talked about it with Zach at the Hunting Public. But it is one piece. It is machined, and any idiot can sharpen it. So you gain structural integrity. You gain ain't going to fail, and you gain sharp. And you can do it, right? You can sharpen them. So that's a couple of steps forward, right? It's the next level of doing this adult arrow thing.
Right.
And that's why I came out with 3-blade. We him-hawed around with it because I'm a big single bevel guy and I love those things. We have a Ranch Fairy 150 grain single bevel up for sale right now. That I can't keep them in stock. It's unbelievable. They put them up and they disappear. And the 3-blades have sold like madness. So obviously that was unmet demand, right? Validated too by somebody who thinks they know what they're talking about, which that is me. And so we can't keep them in stock. They're just flying off the shelves. But the future is going to be more science and deeper science with the Rocket Man. After we did the foam talk with the hunting public, he and I came up with 20 different things we can do with a lab radar or high-speed cameras, and really study the stick flying and what it's doing in the air and how it's penetrating when it hits the target. And then the foundation, we just got access to a crap load of cow bones, and we're going to start shooting just bone, big humeruses off of cows with everything. We're going to see some broadheads explode, and everybody's going to cry and whine and bitch and moan and say, well, I don't shoot humerus on cows. Well, I know, but those other 4 didn't explode. They went through it.
Right.
And yours exploded. So just put that in your old head. If you're that good a shot, you never hit anything hard, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just not that good. And again, we talked about the bell curve. There are some people under stress who are very good.
Right.
I've got a couple of friends who fought in Vietnam. One of them was my buddy. He did 4 tours. The guy who I told you about was my fishing guide buddy. He died. And he's 70 some odd years old. And he didn't talk about it much. But occasionally he would go on these tangents. He was a very interesting personality. Super fun to hang out with, but crazy. Woo! He was crazy. And he said, unfortunately for me, I was good at combat. And he said it was just a problem-solving issue. Threats are coming, and he said I would go into this mode, and it was just decisions.
Right.
There's no fear. He said, I'm not talking myself up. He said, I had a certain skill set I didn't know till I got into combat, and I just went in this mode. It's probably like playing football or sports when you don't hear the crowd and stuff.
Yeah, you in autopilot.
You're on autopilot. The crowd's cheering all that stuff because I played soccer and had some pretty big games, but you never hear that. Like you're coming up, like when I would come up to, and I played up front, and I would score, and then you'd score and you come back and then realize, wow, there's a lot of cheering and crap.
Yep.
And he described it like that. There are people, again, the front end of a bell curve who are exceptional under stress shooting at animals. They're exceptional. They just go into the zone and then they're very accurate. And then there's the rest of us. I'm just trying to help those people. So I'll leave the 5% to do their thing. I'm not going to mess with them.
Worry about the 95.
I got 95% to help. And they all want to bow hunt. It's good for the sport.
Oh, yeah.
So that's where we're going to go. We're going to try to help people.
Heck yeah, man. I'm down for the content. I'll be watching. I'll be watching.
It'll be coming.
Oh, yeah.
It'll be coming.
So, Troy, let the people know where they can find you at on social media and all that.
Okay, well, if you go into the Googler and you type Ranch Fairy, I will show up in some crazy picture of me, probably like that or that or that or that or that. You know, you never know what you're going to see. And then on Instagram, I'm the Ranch Fairy. And then we have our ranch is called the Ray Ranch, W-R-A-Y Ranch. And somehow Ray Ranch and Ranch Fairy got tangled up in Facebook. So it's W-R-A-Y Ranch Fairy. And I'm sorry, I have 5,000 people who follow me. I should probably change the account, but I can't add more people because I don't have the right kind of account. And I'm old.
And you don't want to mess with it.
I should probably do it, but I don't care. So it's not personal. I get, hey man, friend me, blah, 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 all the time. And I'm just like, oh, I'm sorry. Nah. I actually took a screenshot of the warning and posted it one day and said, I'm sorry, I'm old. Nothing personal. I'm not ignoring you.
I didn't know you could have too many friends.
There's some account thing. I think it's because I'm a business account or something.
Oh,
that I need to convert to a business or something. And somehow I got locked up at 5,000. And if somebody out there wants to email me, troy@ranchfairy.com, and tell me how to do that, if it's easy, if it takes like 30 minutes, I'm not doing it.
Right.
There's no way. I got to go fishing, man. I caught a 6-7 yesterday on a crankbait. I'm going fishing in the morning, and the saltwater starts up. So.
Oh yeah. Hey,
yeah,
me and my brother, we used to do a saltwater trip. We'd go deep sea fishing. We did it for a while, for like 2 or 3 years in a row, and then he got engaged and all this stuff. So and had a baby. So that trip kind of ended. But we caught some like with red snappers and.
I love eating those things.
I caught something that looked like a tuna, but it was very small. I can't remember.
Bonita, probably a bonita.
Yeah, that's what the guy said it was, a bonita,
Mm-hmm.
and then he caught a yellow something.
Yellowfin tuna.
Uh, I can't think of the name. It was
Saltwater's so much fun because you get that. You're like, oh,
yes.
what is that? Wow, that's ugly. What's that?
Hey, I'm a country boy. I love my catfishing, and deep sea fishing and saltwater fishing definitely beats freshwater fishing by a long
Oh,
shot.
all day long. I set a goal for myself to pull a 10-pound bass, and I caught one in May. And I started doing this about 4 years ago, and I've been fishing like crazy. Well, I got 2 lakes. They're all both no motors, electric only or kayak, and they get a lot of pressure and stuff. Well, I caught one out of one lake, but the lake I spent most of the time on, I've got multiple 6s and a few high 7s. It owes me a 10-pounder, so I'm grinding it. I'm going to keep grinding until I get a 10-pounder out of there.
Heck
But,
yeah.
yeah, I stuck a 6.7 yesterday, and I stuck a 6.1 week ago, and a bunch of dinks. It's the wrong time of year to catch 10-pound bass, but they're in there. There's a bunch of 10s get caught every spring in there, and 12's been taken out of one of them.
But you
That's
haven't got
legit
one
big
yet,
fish. I have not.
man. Well, Troy, this has been, like I said, a great show. I'm glad you took time out of your day to to talk to me, and
Of
like I said, I
course,
enjoyed
man.
it. I enjoyed
It's
it.
super fun. Super fun. Email me your address.
I'll do that, and you do
You
the
need
same because
toys.
I got a kit for you as well.
Okay. I'll just reply the same to you. And I'm pretty sure I got some 250s around here, maybe 500 of them. And you might get a little care package.
Hey, sounds good to me. I appreciate it.
Outstanding. Have a great evening.
All right, you too.